Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Sans World, and today we're going to be recreating the lead from the Blasterjaxx song with Courtney Love. And I forgot what it's called, but we're creating that fucking lead. And this is the way it's going to sound like. So, if you guys want to learn how to create that lead, stick around. And as always, you guys can download them on my website, even though I do recommend checking out the tutorial to learn how the lead works. So next time, if you use a preset or use a silent or anything, you know how to change certain parameters in order to change the sound to your liking. All right, guys. So let's get started. So straight off the bat, I'm gonna give you a heads up. I do have some post processing, and what post processing means is pretty much processing that isn't in silent one. So you're gonna require some other plugins that I will recommend that you must have in your arsenal in order to make it big or get professional sounds straight out. Okay, so the first plugin is gonna be the Valhalla Vintage Burb. It's debatable, but it's one of the best reverb plugins out there. The Valhalla also have the Room, I believe the Room Verb. But the only thing that the only thing I debate is that there's only two other reverbs that kind of go up to par with the reverbs, the Valhalla, and that's the Art Acoustic one and the Lexicon one. And the Lexicon one can either be the UAD version, which is the software version, or it could be the analog straight out the bat, the rack version that you can buy for like $2,000. But it's all up to you guys. And sorry if I'm a bit sick. I might be going like, because I can barely breathe. All right. Next thing we're going to be using is the API 558. Pretty much what it is, it's a equalizer. Now, the reason I'm using this equalizer and not another one is because this is based off the API 558, the real equalizer. That's the rack. So they try to imitate sounds, like the saturation and all that comes from analog, the warmth of it. So we are gonna keep that. We're gonna be using that EQ. Next thing we're going to be using is the S1 Imager Stereo. If you don't know what it is by now, then you've been living under a rock. Pretty much what it does, it just makes your shit wide. It's like you don't like skinny bitches. You don't like, mono tracks. You want stereo tracks. You want wide bitches, curvy bitches. So we're going to use the Imager Stereo for that. And then the LFO tool, which is just meant for side chaining. The reason you want to use the LFO tool is because you're a lazy fuck and don't want to like EQ the click out of your kick to use as a side chain, or just because you prefer kind of carving out human skin or carving out a side chain, carving out the volume automation, which pretty much is what it does. What you see here is how the volume is going to come out after the reverb kicks. As you can see here, the kick, and then the tail of the kick goes down, and then you can bring in your lead. All right, and the last tool is Silent One. All right, so let's get straight into it. So this lead is going to be fairly easy to make. It is based off of another lead that I found, to be honest, that I already had to. So I just kind of manipulated it in a way to make it sound like this one, which is a fairly simple lead to make. So let's get straight into it. Our polyphony is set at 3. Since this sound is mono, we're really not going to go above a certain amount of voices. We're not going to reach 200 voices from just one silent. So it's not necessary to put the polyphony up, and if you do put it up, you're just wasting CPU power. Okay, and so in oscillator A1, what we have is a Q pulse wave, which is a variant of the square wave. The way you reach a Q pulse is through PWM. So pretty much what happens is you tend to move the center line. If you remember, square is like like this and then like that. So what happens is you move that center line back more. I believe it's PWM. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it's PWM. Okay, so we're gonna have 5 voices on that. No retrig. We don't want retrig. Pretty much what the retrig's gonna do is set the phase back to 0. And if you guys know what the phase is, it's pretty much like the starting point of your wave. So if you think about it, this is like at the midpoint, and then at 180, it's pretty much towards the end. So that's what the phase is going to be doing for you. So our phase is going to be put at 109.71 degrees, no retrig on, because we don't want to start over every time the phase. What happens is you tend to get something that sounds kind of mono-ish and clicky as well, and we don't want that with this sound. Okay, so next we put the detunement at 5.52. And pretty much we're going to be done here. We're going to put this up an octave in the pitch section. Remember, pitch is just change in pitch, like me going from, hey, what's up, guys, to, hey, what's up, guys, you know, brighter pitch, lower pitch. And that's what creates harmony. And then our volume is going to be set down to 4.29. In amp envelope A, we should have it like that by default, but we are going to put the release a tiny bit up at 1.36. All that's going to do is give it a tail. So if you want to hear that tail, you can put the release way up and you'll hear it. But let's just leave it at 1.36 or 1.31. Around there should be fine. Oscillator A2, what we're going to have is a saw with 7 voices. No retrig. We're going to leave the phase by default, when we're going to detune heavily at 6.33. Stereo all the way up, and we're not going to pan. And then in filter A, what we're going to be utilizing is a low pass filter, which again is the filter like if you were to put a hand over your mouth. The last thing you'll hear is the low end before you close the filter out and you hear nothing. So that's what it is. Input select A, low pass 24 dB type, cutoff set to 807.04 hertz. Resonance at 9 o'clock, and resonance is pretty much the point where that line is going down. It's hard for me to explain it without saying, oh, resonance is, and giving you the Google Dictionary one. But pretty much resonance is this point here, right when it starts to, you know, the filter is going to do a low pass, right at the point where that certain frequency there is about to start getting filtered. That's the resonance. So what happens is if you have a high resonance, you're boosting that frequency, so you'll make that frequency kind of stand out more. And what resonance does, it just, I guess you can use it to your advantage in order to get kind of acidy type sounds from bandpass filters and get that kind of glitchy sound. But I really don't find use for it that much. I just like to have it to kind of boost a certain frequency up in the, you know, when I do the cutoff, just to kind of make it stand out a little bit more. So this resonance is going to pretty much be boosting at this frequency at 807.04 hertz. Okay, so once we have that, we're going to increase the drive by 0.48. And when you increase the drive, it's like you're doing this. So we'll bring that back here. We have our low pass. We have our resonance there, let's say like that. And now what I'm going to do is get a high shelf. And when you increase the drive, what you're pretty much doing is this, increasing this like that. So you guys can see it's pretty much boosting the volume of these frequencies. So that's pretty much what's going on. All right, so once we have that, the main filter control is set. The cutoff is set to 82.69 hertz. Resonance at 9 o'clock again, and a little bit of key track at 0.86. Now, what key track is, it's gonna make up. So if you have a high key track, the lower you, I believe, is the higher you go, the more the filter is gonna open or close, and then the lower you are, the filter is gonna open. So mainly, what key track is to make up for having a sound that, you know, it's pretty low. So if you have a filter that's pretty much closing most of it, you tend to hear the harmonics in the high is better. But once you start going into the low end, you can barely hear it. So what the key track does is it opens up the filter a little bit more to make up for, you know, you're playing in the lower area in order to let some of the harmonics out. Because if you were to have a very low end sound, if you know a sub, you can still kind of make a melody with a sub, like change notes, you'll hear those. So if you have your filter all the way closed, all you hear is the you know, the big girl having sex next door. You hear the, but you won't hear her screaming. So when you open up the key track, you're gonna let some of that audio in, so the filter kind of makes up and opens up a little bit more. So that's what the key track is meant for. Just trying to put it into a real life perspective. Let's go to part B. In part B, what we're gonna have is a saw with 6 voices, retrigs on. We're going to put the volume down to 1.14, no phase, no detunement, stereo all the way, and 0 panning. Damn, that big girl, man. You know, I know you guys love your big girls. Now we go to amp envelope B. I want to have it as amp envelope A. The only reason you wouldn't want to have certain amp envelopes the same is because maybe you're trying to create this kind of effect where, like, if you hold down part A long enough, then part B, you'll hear part B come out. So then you can make like really cool effects like that. All right, so then in oscillator B2, what we're gonna have is white noise, 4 voices, retrig on this one. And pretty much we're gonna lower the volume a tad bit to 1.14, and oscillator B1, the volume's down to 1.14 as well. So straight off the bat, part B is just a layer, so it's not gonna be pretty much the important part of the sound, but it's just a layer to kind of help reinforce part A. And you can start straight off the bat because, one, we don't have detunement going on for our saw, so our saw, we won't really be able to hear it. And the white noise, it's always used for layering, so that should be a big giveaway. Okay. So filter B is going to be another low pass. Cutoff is set to around 2 o'clock, no resonance, and a bit of drive as well. And now I know a lot of you guys have seen patches, and sometimes filter A and filter B have AB and then BA. So pretty much what that means, just to get it off here if you guys are watching this, is that part A sound and part B sound are being routed to filter B. And then in part A, if you do the same thing, then you have those 2 sounds coming in through there. So in essence, you're going to have a total of 4 sounds. Sorry, in essence of 2 sounds per filter coming out, so in total you're going to have 4. So what's going to happen is it's going to tend to be really loud. And this is some of the rookie mistakes a lot of sound designers make when it comes to silent, is that they make super sauce and they do it that way. And what happens is, boom, 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 super loud, super sauce, but they sound really dirty and not really that great. So try and stay away from that if you're going to be running a shit ton of oscillators. All right, so pretty much we're going to do the finishing touch-ups on this sound and we're going to be done. Mod envelope 2, we're going to do the decay a tiny bit up, and pitch B is going to get altered all the way to the right, and cut off B as well. So pretty much what this is doing is changing the pitch really fast, going up. So my voice is like going, ah, but it's happening so fast that you don't hear it, but in essence what it does, it makes it sound punchier, and which I've done in almost all my videos. So everyone knows that technique by now. And then we set cutoff B there as well. Same idea, make it sound punchier. Finally, in distortion, we're going to go. We have a foldback. Distortion amount is 7.81. We have a dry and wet of 23.32%. Our phaser, we have the dry and wet at 16%. And EQ, we're going to have the bass set like that by default. Our EQ treble is going to be boosted by 13.29. So we're going to move it to the right. And our frequency is at 1625.96 hertz. Last thing we want to do is just do lower mix B down a bit to around 2.36 and increase the main volume. So now we should be done with the sound. And I guess it should sound like shit by itself. Let me see. So there we have that. So we have the sound done. Now if you guys want, you can leave and I'll be like, bye. But let's do the post-processing. So we have the Voltala Vintage Verb. I am using a preset from the ambient section called Large Ambience. One thing to note is you want to lower the decay though. With hard, sorry, not with hardstyle, but with Big Room House, it can get fairly easy to kind of boost the decay up and shit because, you know, it just sounds good. There's not that many elements going on, but you don't want to do that because it's going to muddy up your mix. So the highest you should go in decay value should be 2.50. Other than that, leave it around 2, and then alter your mix from there. So I have it at 2.15, my mix at 29.6%. Now you might be going, why are you using presets, World? I thought yeah. The reason for using presets a lot of the times is because it saves time. To be honest, like you don't want to be dabbling there. So if you can find something that's something that you're looking for out of the preset box and just alter it to your liking, then that's way better than you making it from scratch all the fucking damn time. It's like everyone knows how to make a super saw, and yet if you use a preset that's a super saw, you know how to make it, but you just don't want to make it because everyone knows there's no, you know, secret to making one. Everyone should know how to make a super saw by now, so there's no point. So next thing we're going to be using is this API 558. If you don't have it, you could use, you know, just the Ableton EQ and boost at frequencies in the high end and the mids, and a little bit of the lows. But what we're gonna do here is, if you do have it, is we're just gonna boost by 2 dB in the high frequency here, by 4 dB here, and by 2 dB at the low end. And then what you want to do is change the frequency here to a little bit higher, to be honest. So let's go to 400 there. And that's going to give us a little bit of warmth. And we should be done there. Next, we do the S1. And the trick to using the S1, to be honest, and this is all it is. You see this width knob? You just push it up. So you just make it fat. And that's it. Now, a couple of tips when using the S1 stereo imager. You do not want to put it fully wide, because what's going to happen is when your track gets played, at a club or an event, and the whole stereo system is in mono, what's going to happen is you won't be able to hear your lead as well if you have it all the way up here, because when mono is the mid information is processed, but not the sides. So if you have it fully wide, what's going to happen is your lead won't either sound as strong or you won't even be able to hear it. So let's try and make it wide, but let's try not to go past the blue lines you see there. So we're going to do this like that. And finally, the LFO tool, pretty easy to use. Just straight off the box. It already has a sidechain parameter, so just lower it to as much as you want. And try not to make this like that, because what's going to happen is you're going to hear that click of the sidechain, like... Ooh, spit came out. And it's not good. So you kind of want to have it subtle and then get that bounce to come out. So just do it a tiny bit down, and that should be enough. And then once we have that, what I did is just duplicated this main synth we made. And I just put the MIDI for this one down by 1 octave. So this one sounds like this. And the top one. And there we go. Ole, 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 ole. Now, there was some delay with the audio. That's because my drivers are fucked up whenever I record through Fraps, so I have to do it this way. But when I'm producing, it's not like that. It's pretty instant, like dip, dip, dip. All right, guys. So thanks for tuning in again to this episode. I'll make sure to subscribe to Several Music. Learn how to make all the favorite leads from your favorite EDM tracks. Don't let them fool you. It's not that hard. All right, guys. As always, guys, thanks. Just to make sure, let you guys know, I am running the Evolution of Sound podcast with a couple of people. So make sure to send your tracks to that. And we have decided to start a YouTube for it, so I might put up some tutorials on there, mainly related to producing. So make sure to go subscribe to that channel. I'll put the link in the description below. Wait, fuck. Like that. And I'll see you guys next time. As always, you can download the preset on my website. And I'll see you guys next time. And I love you guys. And I'll see you guys next time.